so can I. So every bondman in his own hand carries that power to cancel his captivity. How can a bondman, how can a slave cancel his captivity? Got my answer? Yes, by committing suicide. Then Cassius, now he becomes very ironical. He tells Casca why Caesar is trying to become a king and a dictator. Caesar is going to be made a king. Caesar is going to become a dictator after becoming a king because the Romans, the commoners, the people of Rome are keeping their mouths shut without raising their voice. So for all these years, Romans have not seen one man ruling them. And why should they allow Caesar to become that one man to rule over them? It is because the Romans are keeping quiet. That's why he had already said, physically we are as strong as our ancestors. But our fathers' minds are dead. That fighting spirit of men is dead. Our fathers' spirits are dead. And our spirits are being governed, controlled by our mothers. Hence, this yoke and sufferance shows womanish, he says. This yoke. Before Caesar could become a king and a dictator, the Romans have already started behaving like Caesar's slaves. That's why this yoke, this slavery and the suffering of a slave, these things go to show that we are womanish. We are womanly, not manly. We are cowards. We are keeping quiet. Because we are keeping quiet, Caesar is acting like a wolf. Caesar is roaring like a lion. Caesar is howling like a wolf, roaring like a lion. Because we, the Romans, are behaving like sheep. We are behaving like hinds, like these innocent female deer. A hind is a female deer. So Cassius is comparing the Romans to females, to cowards. He has already talked about, the spirits being governed by their mothers. Their father's spirits are dead, he had already said. Now here he is using the image of a hind, a female deer, and comparing the Romans to these female deer that can only be victims to a lion, that can only keep quiet. Look at this. Look at Cassius's ironical statements here. Cassius says, look at this. Come to line number 103. After Casca's words, I'll repeat Casca's words here. So can I. So every bondman in his own hand bears the power to cancel his captivity. Then Cassius says, and why should Caesar be a tyrant then? I'll read out the entire speech of Cassius. You should follow these lines very closely. See how ironical Cassius sounds when he utters a few specific lines. Look at Cassius. This is how Cassius says. This is what Cassius says. And why should Caesar be a tyrant then? Oh, poor man, I know he would not be a wolf, but that he sees the Romans are but sheep. He were no lion, were not Romans hinds. Those that with haste will make a mighty fire, begin it with weak straws. What trash is Rome. What rubbish, oh, what awful when it serves for the base matter to illuminate so vile a thing as Caesar. But oh grief, where hast thou led me? I perhaps speak this before a willing bondman. Then I know my answer must be made. But I am armed, and dangers are to me indifferent. He says. He talks about people. And in a way, he pulls Casca's legs by calling him a willing bondman. He is, infuriating. He is making Casca angry by calling him a willing slave, a willing bondman. And immediately Casca should say, no, I am not a bondman. I too want to be a freeman. So let me join hands with you. Let us prevent Caesar from becoming a king and a dictator. This is the answer Cassius is expecting of Casca. Look at Cassius. He says, why should Caesar be a tyrant man? That means that he is giving reasons why Caesar is trying to become a dictator or a tyrant. He is trying to become a dictator because, poor man, he is pitying. Casca is pitying the Romans. Poor man, I know he would not be a wolf. Caesar would not behave like a wolf. Do you know why he is behaving like a wolf? But that he sees the Romans are but sheep. Because Romans are behaving as humble, as meek, as sheep, Caesar is howling like a wolf. Understood? He were no lion, were not Romans' hinds. And Caesar wouldn't have roared like a lion because he's roaring like a lion. And the only reason why is this weak Caesar, the Caesar who cannot hear by his left ear, Caesar who could not swim, who cannot swim, let me say, Caesar who has this falling sickness, Caesar who is highly superstitious, Caesar who is an old man, let me tell you. And he wouldn't have behaved like a wolf, like a lion, if the Romans had not behaved like sheep, like female deer, hinds, he says. I know he would not be a wolf, but that he sees the Romans are but sheep. He sees. He has observed Romans behaving like sheep. That is why Caesar is behaving and howling like a wolf, which is ready to pounce upon the sheep and eat them away. He were no lion. Caesar wouldn't have roared like a lion if not these Romans were hinds. Hinds. Hinds are female deer. Look at the irony here. He is comparing every Roman to a female animal, female deer. This is the height of irony used by Cassius. Irony is Vyangya. Understood? And then he very ironically calls the entire country, his countrymen, base matter, useless matter. See, we light fire only to these sticks and these useless things. We collect all these useless things like pieces of wood and all these things, and then put them in a corner and set fire to them. And it gives us mighty fire. So people who want to make a mighty fire as quickly as possible, they start with weak straws. A straw is a dried up blade of grass. And he's comparing every Roman to that meaningless dried up blade of grass which is being used by Caesar, to light a huge fire. That huge fire symbolizes Caesar's position of a dictator. Look at this, he says, those with haste will make a mighty fire, begin it with weak straws. Those with haste, those who quickly in a hurry want to make a mighty fire, they always start with weak straws. And dear friends, who are weak straws here according to Cassius? Every Roman, including Casca. Those with haste that will make a mighty fire, begin it with weak straws. So when each Roman has become a dried up blade of grass, that means that the entire Rome has become, entire Rome is full of weak straws, which are of no use, which can only be used to make a huge fire, which do not have life in them. Do you find life in a dried up blade of grass, dear friends? You don't find it. So he becomes very harsh here, Cassius. He says, those that with haste will make a mighty fire, begin with weak straws. That's why what trash is Rome. That's why Rome has become a trash. Trash is full of these weak straws. Trash is a meaningless base matter, useless matter, which can only be used to light huge fire, which can only be converted into ashes by lighting a huge fire. That's why he says, what rubbish is Rome? Rome has become meaningless. Rome means Romans. When I say India, that means Indians. What trash is Rome? What rubbish? Rubbish. Rome has become rubbish. Rome has become rubbish. Rome has become a room for one man, Caesar. Look at this. This huge Roman Empire is being converted into a small room where one man can stay and dictate terms, like Caesar. What rubbish! Oh, what awful! These are all synonymous with one another. These are all synonyms, Trash, rubbish, awful. All these things talk about how people have become useless as weak straw. Weak straws. Since Romans have become weak straws, it serves for the base matter. This entire Rome is becoming base matter. It is serving for base matter, means all the Romans have become these weak straws which would help another weak man, another dirty fellow to light up a huge fire. Caesar is no more a strong man. He has already said these things to Casca. I can take out a man who is not more stronger than you are than me in personal action, but prodigious grown, like this terrible storm he had said. Look at this, he says, what trash is Rome, what rubbish, what awful, when it serves for the base matter. When it means the country Rome, means the Romans. Romans are behaving like this base matter to illuminate, to make a weak man glow to make a weak man shine like a huge fire, like a dictator in the near future. When it serves for the base matter to illuminate so vile a thing as Caesar. Caesar is a vile thing. Caesar also is a meaningless thing. Caesar, a person, is compared to a thing by Cassius. Look at that hatred Cassius has for Caesar here. This Rome has become weak straws to illuminate, to glorify, to help this vile thing, this dirty thing, this useless thing called Caesar, to burn brightly, to illuminate. He is trying to burn brightly by lighting fire to all these weak straws, these Romans. And Cassius doesn't want this to happen. Cassius doesn't want these Romans to behave like sheep, to behave like hinds, to behave like weak straws. No. He wants them to go against Caesar and stop him from becoming a king and then from becoming a dictator. After having said this, very emotionally, look at the cleverness of Caesar. He says, the Cassius, he says, but oh grief, where hast thou led me? Oh grief, my God. In my sorrow, I overshot myself, he says. In my sorrow, I have spoken many things without having control over them. But oh grief, where hast thou led me? You have taken me to extremes. You have made me call Roman sheep. You have made me call my people hinds. You have made me call my people weak straws, with the help of which this weak Caesar is going to enjoy a huge fire in future. Oh my God, oh grief, oh sorrow, where hast thou led me? Then he says, I think my words are at deaf ears. I am speaking to a deaf ear, he says. My words is falling on a deaf ear. He's comparing Casca, ironically, to a slave. Casca who's willing to be Caesar's slave. Because he has to trap Casca into becoming a conspirator. That's why Cassius says, I perhaps speak this before a willing bondman, because I think my words will not hold any water, as it were. I think my words will not have any meaning, because I am speaking to a person who is ready to be Caesar's slave. Who is Casca? Who is none other than Casca. He is, in a way, Cassius is instigating Casca to go against Caesar. He says, perhaps I speak this before a willing bondman. Then, if that is the case, I know my answer must be made. If that is the case, I know what Casca is going to do. He's going to inform everybody to go against me and kill me. I don't care, he says. Because dangers are indifferent to me, he says. He says, dangers, I don't care for dangers. I don't mind dying for my country, but I want to prevent. I will try my best to prevent Caesar from becoming a king and thereon from becoming a dictator. Then I know my answer must be made, but I am armed. My armor is my honesty. Cassius says very cleverly, my honesty, my love of my country, my love for my country is my armor. But I am armed, and dangers are to me indifferent. Dangers are to me insignificant. I don't care for these dangers, he says. I am ready to die for my country. Then Casca says, no. My dear Cassius, you are not speaking to a willing bondman. You are speaking to a man who is not a fleeing telltale, who is not a character assassin. I will not destroy your character, by informing others what you have said, what you have told me just now. I am not going to instigate others against you. I am with you. Even I want to die, live and die like a free man. Look at Casca's patriotism. That hidden patriotism comes out of Casca. Casca says, you speak to Casca. And to such a man, that's no fleeing telltale. Fleeing telltale is one who keeps telling stories against people to others. They are called character assassins. They always assassinate people's character by speaking bad things about a good person. Such a person is called a fleeing telltale. In Kannada we call it Tejovade. Understood? You speak to Casca, and to such a man that is no fleeing telltale. Hold my hand. He shakes hands with Cassius. That means that I am one with you. I am one incorporate in whatever you do. Hold my hand and let us be factious for redress of all these griefs. Let us be factious. So they join hands with one another. And Casca says, let us be factious. Let us be ready to redress, to repair what we have already done. Let us undo what is already done. Let us be factious for redress, for repair of all these our griefs. We are going to face these griefs if we allow Caesar to become a king and then become a dictator. And then look at Casca, he says, I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes farthest. Who is going the farthest? Cassius. And Casca says, I am ready. He is ready to walk along with Cassius. That means that he is ready to support whatever Cassius does. And I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes farthest. Then Cassius says, there is this bargain made. Yes, I am very happy that you have agreed with me. Casca, I am very happy. Cassius is very happy that Casca is also willing to join hands with him to remove Caesar, to prevent Caesar from becoming a king. At this, I will stop my video. And in my next video, I will tell you as to what Cassius's plans are. He reveals his plans to Casca, and both of them also meet another conspirator called Cinna. We will talk about these things in my next video. Until then, please go through this video. Kindly subscribe. Thank you so much. God bless you.